You are being dismantled right now, not by enemies at the gate, but by people already inside your court. You feel it in the hesitation before decisions. You feel it in the fatigue that has no physical cause. Your empire is leaking power, and you keep calling it bad luck. Your life is a territory under siege. Not by armies, but by whispers, alliances offered with smiles, advice that weakens your spine. In the digital Colosseum, betrayal hides in likes, comments, and private messages. Every time you explain yourself, you hand them a map. Every time you tolerate disrespect, you lower the drawbridge. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. Men are simple and will always be deceived. Today, the deception is faster, psychological, silent. Your amygdala fires fear when you sense social threat. Your dopamine craves approval. They exploit both. You call it connection. It is extraction. This is not paranoia. This is pattern recognition. The cracks you sense are real. Drained energy, stalled ambition, delayed execution. Your court is contaminated. Spies do not announce themselves. They integrate. You are here because you are not meant to be a casualty. You are meant to rule, but ruling begins with exile. Not confrontation, not drama. Removal, evaporation. Tonight you will learn to identify 8 empire killers, and why mercy toward them is cruelty toward yourself. Scan your phone. Who appears supportive yet leaves you diminished? The answer is already there. Your awakening starts now. The debt enforcer never attacks you directly. They approach with gifts, introductions, favors you did not request. Like a hunter feeding an animal before the trap, they condition your dopamine system to associate them with relief and reward. Your brain marks them as safe, generous, ally. That is the biological snare. Dopamine does not track intention. It tracks reward. Once the favor is accepted, the chain is forged. Not externally, internally. You feel it as pressure, subtle guilt. A voice that says you owe them attention, access, tolerance. Machiavelli warned that men bind themselves faster than they are bound. The debt enforcer understands this instinctively. They never demand repayment immediately. They wait. Power is patience. The scenario is familiar. A colleague puts in a word for you. A friend covers a cost. A contact opens a door. Later, they ask for something misaligned with your interests. The weak response is justification, explanation, compliance wrapped in gratitude. You tell yourself it is fair. It is not. It is extraction. The strategist responds differently. Refusal without explanation, no debate, no apology, no counterfavor. This shocks them because it breaks the script. Their leverage depended on your internalized obligation. When you refuse calmly, you reclaim autonomy and expose the transaction for what it always was. There is a historical lesson here. Rulers who accepted gifts from rival courts rarely survived intact. The gift was never generosity. It was a leash disguised as silk. Machiavelli documented how indebted princes lost sovereignty long before losing territory. This archetype thrives on your fear of appearing ungrateful. That fear lives in the amygdala. Social rejection once meant death. Today it means discomfort. The strategist tolerates discomfort to avoid decay. The rule is simple. Never accept what you did not ask for if the cost is unclear. Favors are not free. They are deferred invoices. Pay nothing. Owe we nothing. This is the debt enforcer. You must break the chain before it tightens. The intel harvester feeds on your need for safety. When your amygdala senses uncertainty, it pushes you to talk. Disclosure feels like relief. Confession feels like bonding. Your nervous system mistakes exposure for connection. That is the opening they wait for. The intel harvester presents as understanding, curious. Vulnerable, they share first. A story, a flaw, a secret. This is not honesty. It is bait. Your brain mirrors instinctively. Humans evolved to reciprocate disclosure, to secure tribe membership. Once you speak, they listen differently. Not to connect, but to catalog. The scenario unfolds quietly. A coworker asks how you really feel about leadership. A friend probes your fears. A partner encourages you to vent. The weak response is emotional unloading. You narrate doubts, frustrations, future plans. Later those words resurface out of context. As leverage, as gossip, as subtle control, you never see the blade. Only the wound. Machiavelli understood that knowledge is power and power is asymmetric. The one who speaks less governs the frame. The one who reveals less cannot be cornered. Modern psychology confirms this. Information creates prediction. Prediction creates control. The strategist applies the override. Strategic silence. You do not lie. You do not confront. You simply offer nothing usable. Neutral responses, surface-level facts. No emotional detail. No future intent. Silence is not emptiness. It is a wall. There is a reason kings spoke through intermediaries. Proximity invites extraction. Distance preserves authority. The intel harvester cannot mirror what you do not provide. Cannot weaponize what does not exist. This archetype exploits your fear of being seen as cold. That fear is ancient. Exile once meant death. Today it means respect. The strategist chooses respect. The rule is absolute. Feelings are private. Plans are classified. Words are currency. Spend them only where power is equal. This is the intel harvester. You must become unreadable. The chaos conjurer does not bring peace or progress. They bring storms, emergencies, emotional spikes. Every interaction carries urgency. Your nervous system adapts to this volatility because it must. Cortisol stays elevated, adrenaline becomes familiar. Over time, your body stops recognizing calm as normal. Stress becomes home. This is the biological trap. The nervous system habituates to repeated threat signals. What once felt alarming now feels routine. You begin to confuse intensity with importance, drama with meaning. Machiavelli warned that disorder benefits those who create it because they alone understand its rhythm. The chaos conjurer thrives here. They arrive with problems they caused or amplify. Conflicts that require your attention. Crises that pull you off mission. They frame themselves as victims or warriors. Either way, you are pulled into their weather system. Your execution slows, your clarity erodes. You call it loyalty, it is sabotage. The common response is engagement, calming them. Fixing situations, explaining. Mediating, this rewards the behavior. Your attention becomes oxygen. Their volatility grows stronger because it works. The storm intensifies. The strategist applies the only effective override. Quarantine, not punishment. not confrontation, removal of access. Fewer responses, delayed replies. No emotional investment, no problem solving. The chaos conjurer starves when ignored. Volatility requires witnesses. History shows this pattern clearly. Courts fell not from enemies, but from internal fires. Advisors who thrived on instability kept rulers reactive. Distracted rulers lose empires. This archetype exploits your fear of abandonment. Your biology whispers that leaving a distressed group member is dangerous. That instinct once kept tribes alive. Today it keeps parasites fed. Quarantine feels cruel at first. Your nervous system rebels. The silence feels wrong. Then something happens. Your body recalibrates. Calm returns. Focus sharpens. Progress resumes. You realize the storm was never external. It was imported. The rule is simple. Peace is a prerequisite for power. Anyone who repeatedly disrupts it is an enemy regardless of intent. This is the chaos conjurer. You must remove the weather to reclaim the climate. The echo phantom feels familiar too quickly. They share your tastes, your language, your values, your outrage, your humor. Your brain relaxes because similarity signals safety. For most of human history, those who looked and sounded like you were kin. That instinct still governs trust. This is the biological trap. Your brain rewards similarity with dopamine and lowers threat detection. You stop evaluating. You start assuming, Machiavelli observed, that men are won more easily by resemblance than by reason. The echo phantom uses this as camouflage. They mirror you deliberately. Opinions shift to match yours. Principles bend in real time. They become what you admire, not to align, but to access. Once inside your perimeter, they steer subtly, validate harmful ideas, nudge decisions, borrow your identity to legitimize their agenda. The scenario appears harmless. A colleague agrees with everything you say. A friend adopts your worldview overnight. An admirer studies you closely. The weak response is trust acceleration, deeper access, unfiltered speech, shared strategy. You feel understood. You are being mapped. The strategist applies the override, controlled unpredictability. You change positions slightly, delay reactions, introduce ambiguity, not dishonesty. Variance. The echo phantom fractures under this pressure because they cannot mirror what they cannot predict. Inconsistency exposes the mimic. There is historical precedent. Spies embedded by adopting local customs but failed when rituals changed unexpectedly. Those who could not adapt revealed themselves. True allies remain stable through variance. Phantoms dissolve. This archetype feeds on your desire to be seen, to be matched. That desire is human. The strategist regulates it. You allow connection but not convergence. The rule is precise. Trust those who can disagree without disappearing. Similarity that never resists is not loyalty. It is strategy. This is the echo phantom. You must disrupt the reflection to see who stands behind it. The virtue viper never looks dangerous. They look righteous, principled, concerned. They strike while wearing the mask of morality. Your fear is not physical. It is social, exclusion, shaming, character assassination. Your amygdala reacts to this threat instantly, because for most of human history being cast out meant death. That is the biological trap. Fear of social punishment triggers compliance before logic can intervene. You soften. You explain. You adjust. Not because you are wrong, but because you want the pressure to stop. The virtue viper knows this. They weaponize language, honesty, concern, values. Every sentence sounds reasonable. Every outcome weakens you. The mechanism is gaslighting. They question your intent. Frame your boundaries as cruelty. Recast your strength as ego. The moment you defend yourself, you lose the frame. Now you are on trial. Machiavelli warned that moral language is the favorite tool of those seeking power without responsibility. The scenario repeats everywhere. A colleague says you are not being a team player. A friend says you have changed. A partner says your boundary hurts them. The weak response is debate, justification, over-explanation. You try to be understood. They were never confused. The strategist applies the override, boundaries stated as facts. Not arguments, not emotions. Statements, I am not available for that. I will not engage in this. This does not work for me. No tone, no story. No defense, facts cannot be gaslit. This disarms the virtue viper because their power depended on dialogue. Debate gives them room to twist. Facts close the door. Some will escalate. Others will retreat. Both outcomes reveal intent. History confirms this pattern. Rulers who argued morality lost authority. Rulers who stated law preserved order. Clarity is not cruelty. It is structure. This archetype exploits your desire to be seen as good. The strategist chooses to be effective. Goodness without strength invites predation. The rule is absolute. Boundaries are not negotiations. State them once. Enforce them silently. This is the virtue viper. You must remove morality from the battlefield and rule with clarity. The fence-sitter appears harmless, neutral, agreeable. They avoid conflict and claim objectivity. Your brain accepts them because belonging is a survival need. The tribe once protected you from extinction. Your nervous system still prioritizes inclusion over clarity. That is the biological trap. Your need for belonging tolerates ambiguity. Neutrality feels safe. It feels fair. Machiavelli understood that neutrality in power struggles always benefits the aggressor. Those who refuse to choose still influence outcomes. They simply avoid accountability. The fence-sitter watches, listens, collects. They offer support without commitment, approval without risk. When pressure arrives, they disappear or pivot to the winning side. You mistake this for balance. It is insurance. They preserve access to everyone while investing in no one. The scenario is common. A colleague avoids backing you publicly. A friend refuses to take a stance when you are challenged. An ally stays silent when your name is questioned. The weak response is tolerance. You excuse it as maturity. You tell yourself, not everyone has to choose. Your position erodes quietly. The strategist applies the override. Forced framing, you define the situation clearly. This is where I stand. This is what I need. Are you in or out? No hostility. No ultimatum. Clarity. Clarity. This collapses ambiguity, allegiance or distance. Both are acceptable. Limbo is not. This works because the fence-sitter relies on fog. When the frame sharpens, they must reveal intent. True allies step forward. Opportunists retreat. Either way, the leak is sealed. History rewards this approach. Leaders who tolerated neutral elites were overthrown by them. Leaders who demanded alignment consolidated power and trust. This archetype exploits your fear of isolation. Your biology whispers that pushing for commitment risks abandonment. The strategist accepts that risk to avoid slow erosion. The rule is precise. Neutrality around your downfall is opposition. Silence is not harmless. It is a position. This is the fence-sitter. You must demand clarity to preserve your ground. This is the most dangerous archetype because it wears your face. The shadow sovereign is not in your circle. It is in your habits, your tolerances, your internal negotiations. Your dopamine system seeks comfort through the familiar, even when the familiar is corrosive. Predictability feels safe, decay feels known. That is the biological trap. Dopamine rewards what is repeated, not what is optimal. You tolerate what drains you because it is consistent. You delay removal because confrontation creates uncertainty. The shadow sovereign exploits this by whispering rationalizations. Later, not now. It is not that bad. These whispers feel reasonable. They are treason. Carl Jung named this the shadow, the disowned parts of the psyche that sabotage from behind the throne. Machiavelli described the same phenomenon in rulers who destroyed themselves through indulgence and mercy toward internal weakness. No enemy is required when the gatekeeper sleeps. The scenario is internal. You keep the chaotic ally because you fear emptiness. You allow disrespect because it avoids discomfort. You stay silent because speaking would change the dynamic. The weak response is patience, tolerance, hope. Hope is not a strategy. It is a sedative. The strategist applies the override. Conscious self-rule, you observe the impulse without obeying it. You name the fear, you act anyway. Discipline replaces negotiation. The shadow sovereign loses power when exposed to command. This is not self-hatred, it is self-authority. A harmless man is not a good man. A good man is dangerous and governed. Darkness under voluntary control becomes strength. Darkness left unattended becomes sabotage. History proves this repeatedly. Empires fell from internal decay long before invasion. Leaders who mastered themselves needed fewer enemies. The rule is uncompromising. What you tolerate, you authorize. What you repeat, you become. Crown yourself daily through action, not intention. This is the shadow sovereign. You must remove the traitor, or it will rule in your name. Now you see the map. Every archetype, every breach, every internal permission slip that kept them close. The purge creates silence, and that silence terrifies the uninitiated. They call it loneliness. You will call it sovereignty. When the court empties, your nervous system panics. The amygdala hates vacuums. It screams danger. Fill it with noise, it says. Fill it with people. This is where empires fall. The strategist does the opposite. You hold the vacuum, you let dopamine reset. You let clarity return. Solitude is not weakness. Solitude is infrastructure. Machiavelli was clear. Rule or be ruled, those are the only options. Every delay is a vote against your future. Every excuse is the shadow sovereign negotiating another day of decay. A harmless man is not a good man. A good man is dangerous and disciplined. Darkness under voluntary control. Here is your application. Protocol 1. The Vapor Protocol. Stop initiating. Reduce signals. Let access die quietly. Protocol 2. The Boundary Test. State a limit once. Watch reactions. Compliance earns proximity resistance, earns exile. Protocol 3. The Throne Audit. Write the names that drain you. Remove one tonight. You are no longer the confused ruler wondering why progress stalls. You are the architect rebuilding with intention. But hear this warning, the greatest empire killer remains you. The part that fears empty rooms, the part addicted to affirmation, the part that mistakes tolerance for virtue. Crown yourself. Seal the gates. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I rule my court, or I remove it. Most will close this and change nothing. They will return to the noise. You are not most. If this awakened, you understand. This is only the surface. There are principles that cannot live in public light. They exist behind the join button. Few enter. That is the point. Subscribe if you have not. The next exile sharpens the blade. I will see you in the shadows.